Hey, kings and queens, what's going on? So I wanted to address the post that I made yesterday about us swearing in court on the Bible, but declaring that there is a separation of church and state. And to me, that's hypocritical confusion, because now I heard a lot of different sides to this thing, that it's about taxes. They were talking about just taxes. The church is exempt from taxes. Another one is they don't want the state to impose on how we worship God. There's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different, assumptions when it comes to this thing. But I follow what the government says. I follow what they put out there. And what they declare to be true is that there is a clear separation of church and state. They even use it when they're making their speeches, that the church cannot be involved in politics, and there's no religion when it comes to the state. There's no religion when it comes to, to the governing affairs of the state and laws and legislations and all this stuff. And so to me, that's hypocritical. That's hypocrisy, and it's confusion, because you tell us that there's no separation of church and state, and that we don't have any involvement or shouldn't have any involvement. Religion or Christianity shouldn't have any involvement when it comes to the governing affairs of the state, but then you swear on our Holy Bible for people to tell the truth. And so I want to address that. I want to go deeper into that thing, because there's a huge revelation that's in this thing. When you look at the history of the church and you look at the history of the state, the history of the Hebrews being taken captive into lands, into other countries, and even in their own country, when it had bad leaders and bad kings, there was laws and legislations that were put in place, that were passed in order to silence the Christian, silence those that truly follow God, and to rid the world of the Christian. Nebuchadnezzar, when he was in his kingdom, he reigned over the entire world. They put a law in effect that said you can't worship no other God. But Nebuchadnezzar, or the image that Nebuchadnezzar erected. And so if you cannot, if you don't worship this statue, you're going to be thrown into the fire. You understand what I'm saying? If you don't bow down when you hear all these tingling musical sounds and all this stuff to this statue and worship it, you're going to be thrown into the fire. So Satan has always been after the church to get them to either reject God, compromise, or be put to death. You understand what I'm saying? And so the 3 Hebrew boys were thrown into the fire because they didn't want to bow down. They're like, no, we bow down to one God. We serve Jesus only. We serve the living God, Yahweh, period. So you're going to have to throw us in the fire. And what happened? They were thrown in the fire, but God's power, over the fire, stayed them. And nothing harmed them. So God is 100% for those who are for him, even to protect them against being thrown into fire. How about the lion's den? Daniel couldn't pray to no other God but to the king, to request of the king. And they put a legislation, they put a law in effect that rendered them from worshiping God or praying to any other God, or they'll be thrown into the lion's den. And they sealed it with the king's signet that said it can't, not even the king can override it. And so Daniel, what'd he do? He worshiped, he prayed like he always did every day. And he did make sure his windows were open. So they understand I worship one true living God. And what happened? Because he broke the law of the land, he was thrown into the lion's den. So understand, if I was Satan, if I was the devil, because I understand that people follow the laws of the land, that people are governed by the laws of the land, I will do my best to keep the church, those who carry the real power of God, to affect, to rule, to govern, to control the world. I will do everything in my power to keep them out of law, keep them out of legislation, because they'll interrupt my plans to rid the world of the church. Satan has always gone through legislation. He's always gone through governing affairs to rid the world of the church. So this is why I press sons and daughters of the living God to get into politics, get into the church, because politics absent of God is Satan. And Satan comes to do what? Steal, kill, and destroy. That's all this dirtbag comes to do. And so if we're out of politics, that's God being absent out of politics, and it leaves Satan to have full reign and rule. So if I was Lucifer, I would strategically plan to keep the church out of law and out of legislation, so I can pass all of my laws and then eventually pass a law that tells Christians you cannot worship God. Either you bow down to this image, you bow down to me, or you die. And trust me, that's coming in Revelation. Do you see the pattern? It's going to happen eventually, but while the church is still here, we want to rule. We want to reign when it comes to politics. We want to reign when it comes to law. So we can't allow Satan to get away with passing all these absurd laws that demoralize humanity, that brings immorality as the new normal. The devil is a liar. I am encouraging the church to get into politics, get into law, get into these things so that we can oppose the demonic spirits and forces that are behind the laws and legislations that are being passed. Lucifer's behind that, kings and queens. We don't battle flesh and blood. We're not battling white supremacy. We're not battling people of white supremacy. We're not battling people who want to do abortions. We're not battling people who want to be homosexuals. We're not battling these different things. We're not battling weed people. We're not battling people. People are not our issue. People are not our problem. Our problem is Satan. Satan is the real force and the real problem behind the destruction of the world. And he has always gone through legislation. He's always gone through law to rid the world of the church, to rid the church of the world, and to put an end to righteousness in the land. I'm telling you, and it's going to happen as Revelations declare. It's going to happen. But we need to make sure that we are in politics, that we have our hands and feet. I'm talking about all up in that. We need to get all up in them politics, all up in them laws, and take back our land, take back our city for the glory of God. And you understand, Jesus Christ is the head of all principality and the head of all power. Come on. He rules. He's the supreme of all. But he governs himself. He moves through the vessels of his children. If his children are refusing to get into legislation law, we can't complain when they pass things that go against that go against morality, that go against righteousness, that go against holiness, that go against the love of God, that go against, we can't get upset, y'all, when they pass laws and legislation that oppose us in every form, fashion, or way, that get us to compromise our God. We can't get upset with that. Let's get into this stuff, man. Let's get into these laws. Let's get into this legislation. Let's go to these city council meetings. Me and my wife seen some city council meetings coming up. We want to be a part of that. Let's get into this stuff. Let's affect the government because we're supposed to. God gave rule and master and governorship to his children. He made us in his image and after his likeness and gave Adam and Eve rule and mastery over the world. But when Adam when he sinned, he lost it. And it was given to Satan. Satan took it. So we know that the rule and mastery and governorship of the world is not to be in the hands of the unrighteous, but in the hands of the righteous. In the hands of the righteous. We are the ones that rule the world. Not those who are in sin, but the ones that are in righteousness rule the world and are called to govern the world. Come on, kings and queens. So let's not get upset when things are passed that go against who we are and who God is and what God says should be in the earth if we're not getting ourselves into politics and getting ourselves into laws and legislation and being a part of that stuff that's being passed. Come on, y'all. Let's get it. So I love you. I just had to bring that to pass as a huge revelation. Satan has always gone through legislation. He's always gone through law to rid morality, to rid the world of the church. The real talk. He's always gone through that. If I was Satan, I would strategically go through that pattern all the time because we're ruled by police. We're ruled by government, presidents. We're ruled by all these people. So we get If I can get these people to pass demonic law, the children of God will also fall into that and perish, or fall into it and compromise or perish. And it's coming eventually. Revelation declares it. But not while we're here. Let's take it back. Let's rule well until we're taken out of here, y'all. Let's do it. I love you.